Hello, and welcome to Episode 6, Part 2, where we continue our interview with Brett Klika and learn more about his techniques and how to become the best version of yourself.
Well, so you were talking about impact in that community. So, I wanted to touch a little bit on that. So I lost my grandmother about a month ago now, and we're having the service this Saturday. And it's just incredible the amount of people who have just come out for it. You were talking about your wife, and, people just wanted to be there with you and support you. And, it's important to see that impact because a lot of times you almost don't see it when they're alive. It's like, and then these people come out like, your grandmother did this for me. She was volunteering here, and it's almost overwhelming at first to just realize how many lives they've touched and how much impact they've actually brought to the world that, you just kind of took it for granted. Like, oh, well, she's just there. She's my wife. She's my grandmother.
Does it help, or does it make you reflect like you missed it?
I think it helps in the way that you get to reflect on it and see the goodness that she brought. Or whoever who had passed, that they had brought to the world. Because it's something that, like I said, you just take for granted, so you're not really realizing it at the time, in real time, what they're doing. And so it's just incredible sometimes, the stories you hear. And, like, for example, my grandmother, she always volunteered. One of the funniest stories I've ever heard is she would volunteer at the local senior centers. And she'd always call the people old. She's like, I don't understand how these people are so old. So she was 96 years old when she passed. And she'd been volunteering all the way up to that.
She didn't look at herself like that.
No, that's the incredible part.
And so fucking cool.
You hear things like that. You're like, what? And she's like, oh, yeah, she would call us old. It's like, she'd call you, you're like 70-something. Yeah. And she was calling.
That's awesome.
And it's just that impact. So I'm sure that you kind of had that revelation too with all those people coming by. And like you said, it was almost uplifting.
It's very uplifting, but there is I was originally resistant to it because I saw it almost as a burden. Like, I don't know what I can do for these people if they're sad. Yeah. But when they got there, I realized, man, it's not me going through it and then they're on the outside saying, oh, poor Brett's so sad. We were going through it. Yes, I was on a different level, but like, to see that impact, it is a joyous thing. It is, even in the depths of despair, it is a joyous thing to see that this person you loved is also loved by others. And when I spoke at her celebration of life, and I gave the final talk, hardest talk I've ever given, but, I brought up a point of, the fact that we can grieve together. It just proves that love is stronger than death.
Yes.
And that's what grief is. And when you see it that way, it doesn't, take away the sadness, but it repurposes sadness in a certain way. Yeah.
Do you remember when it finally hit you? I got to get out of the bed. My daughter, my family, my mom. Yeah. Was that 3 months, 6 months? Do you recall? I know it's been about 2 years, but
man, it was the first week.
Wow.
Well, because it was part of it's my personality.
Yeah.
Like, I don't I can't skirt things. I can't go. I have to go through it, and that's why when it happened, I made the day of. I was like, I'm going through this. I'm not drinking. I'm not doing any drugs. I'm going through this. I'm going to feel it all, and I'm going to head straight into the belly of the beast. But I knew in order to do that, I couldn't just raw dog it. I had to have I'd have this supportive environment. Yes. Part of that comes from my community. The other part is like having my own, using the tools that I had access to.
Right.
So it was the morning after my wife passed, I got up and I actually exercised. Now, it wasn't truly exercise.
No, but that's
it wasn't,
okay.
But it was, I went through the motions. Everything. I went on a lot of walks.
So that discipline was just there.
It wasn't discipline, though. And then a lot of people, it was...
So what was it?
It was a trained, so it's like training. Like,
it's the basic training like we're talking
training.
about.
I trained for so long.
It's ingrained in your mind.
Yeah, but that's discipline. Discipline brings that ingrained kind of map.
What's more like a pure muscle memory.
It was muscle memory more than... Because
I guess I'm jumping ahead because you couldn't have it without the discipline.
So discipline creates discipline's what it requires when you first start doing something. Right. After that, it's almost discipline to not do it. You think of a habit that you've done forever. Yeah. For a positive habit. At first, it's discipline to do that habit. But if you were to be like, I'm not going to brush my teeth tonight, you'd go in bed and be like, dude, this sucks. I can't. But you're like, I'm going to brush my teeth. I can't get to sleep unless I brush my teeth.
Yeah.
If you were going to get paid $1,000 to not brush your teeth, it would take discipline to not brush your teeth.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of like a lot of the habits. And it's not just exercise, but it's the things that I'd trained for so many years, partly because I'd been in that field of how do you help people. And I had done a lot of these things over and over again. So it just was literally on autopilot. And I did it because it's like, well, what do I know helps me, process things in my mind? Well, I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to write things down. I'm going to, and those have just been trained. So it didn't require discipline. It just was there and it just happened. Had it not been part of my daily...
So you didn't think about it.
Didn't think about it. It just happened. Because if I would have had to think about it, and that's why it's so important. You look at your life now and you think, what am I training every day? Because you're training. Everything you do is training. You're training every day, whether you want to or not.
Oh, yeah.
You're training the
Training
way you think.
to fail or to win.
Yeah, but you're training the way you think. You're training the way you act. You're training...
Yep.
So you got to think, am I training in a way that my life would survive a pressure test? Because if you're not, then life is going to throw you a pressure test. It
I like
is
that.
at some point. in the
Life
middle.
survives a pressure test.
Well, in the mid-2000s, I had a chance to do a leadership day with the Navy SEALs. So I got to go down there, just watch them train, and then we got to go into a room and sit with the generals and ask whatever questions. And it was cool because this is like Goggins was there and all these people, but it was before they were famous. So they were just Navy SEALs.
Yeah.
But I'm standing next to this Master Chief, and they're just destroying these guys. These guys had just gotten out of the shower. They do, they take their shower, and they're walking down, and they're hustling to get to the next thing, but he stops. He's like, "Why are your shirts clean?" They're just like, "Got out of the shower, sir." He's like, what do they call it? Go get wet or something, which means run down to the ocean, jump in the ocean, roll in the sand, and do all this. And I'm sitting next to the guy, and then they have to go and hang on this, just fuck with them. And I was like,
So this is on base.
On base in Coronado. And I was like, God, these guys work so hard. He's like, this isn't the hard work.
Yeah.
He's like, this physical stuff, we do this. We train like this. So when they get to war, then they don't have to think.
Yeah.
It's like it's in the training. Like I want them to train in a high pressure situation. I want them to train to the point where when they actually hit the shit, they don't have to stop and think. They don't have to be like, okay, come on, work hard now. No, it's just literally like, this is what I do. This is how I operate. And I think we often forget that because we're so predisposed to seek comfort. So we don't want to voluntarily put ourselves into a situation where we're uncomfortable, whether that be in the way we think, the way we act. We don't want to exercise. We don't want to challenge our brain. And it's understandable because back in the days, if cavemen decided they're going to go for a 5-mile jog, we wouldn't be here.
Yep.
Because they would have died. They didn't have enough food. But it's some of the things that you just have to train, and it comes to the way you think and the way you act. So it's, if you find that there's things in your life that are counterproductive to you thriving, it's important to evaluate that and think, well, I'm training this every day. I'm making this bad habit better I'm getting better at this bad thing every day, or I'm getting better at this good thing every day. And you got to decide because you're training something all the time.
So then...
No, go ahead.
So working with the SEALs and then, of course, working with those in the Olympics, like the Venn diagram about how did that lay out? Seeing those, two very polar opposites of achieving that optimum essence of physical fitness of body and mind. Like, how did you see those two compare and then contrast from each other?
I don't think they're different.
I think the end point, I could see someone
It's just
argue
your target. Your target is different. Just like an operator. So I've had a little bit of time to spend like SWAT teams, recon teams, SEAL teams, and not on base, but just in more of like a kind of like a conference. Not a conference type of situation. And what I found so interesting about these guys is you're sitting by a campfire having drinks with them after the conference, and they're just the nicest, most mellow guys you have ever... you just can't imagine that these guys are precision assassins. You cannot imagine because they're just calm, relaxed, whatever, until they're not supposed to be.
In a way. So I've interacted with a lot of them,
Yeah.
of course, going through A&M and the Corps of Cadets, and so we do a lot of trainings with them.
So you didn't find them that way?
No, I could definitely pick them out in a crowd. I mean, just the way
No,
they
not pick
handle
them out,
themselves.
but you didn't find them in a social situation when they didn't have a target, that they were just normal, average, kind of relaxed kind of guys.
And reason I say that is because the way they can pick out detail of the way things are interacting around them and the things that they know.
But that's just situational awareness.
It is, but that is something that's ingrained in them through that training exercise. And so that's where, so I kind of see the contrast is, so the Olympian isn't really training for that aspect.
Yeah.
Well, those who are training in a more military environment, I mean, they're very focalized on that, because even though the end goal may be similar and synonymous, I think the pathway is drastically
Do you think
different.
the approaches are different?
It's not so much the approach; it's the end. So, with an athlete, failure is an option. We can sensationalize it all we want, but failure is an option. If I go up and I strike out, that sucks. If I strike out enough, it's going to impact my career. But
So you haven't seen some players like it's like not an option. Like, I can't handle failing.
But it still is. They don't die.
Fair enough.
If you're in special teams, failure is not an option.
No.
Failure means death.
Yeah.
So those realities live in different parts of your brain. And so while the Olympic athletes' commitment's outrageous, and they tie Olympic athletes, like you say, would you rather die at 25 with a gold medal or die at 40 with no medals? They'll die at 25 with a medal.
Right.
So in their mind, it's life and death. In the world,
It's not.
it is not.
Right.
In the Navy, in the SEALs and special teams,
It's life and death.
failure is not an
Yes.
option. So that does impact.
But do you think they care more about their own life or the effect that they have by their life compromising the team?
It's compromising the team. It's
compromising the team.
Unquestionably.
Yeah.
100%.
They're actually like not, they just don't want to compromise the other boys.
100%. And that's really what drives them. And Olympic athletes are largely looking at it from
Individual.
their own personal. But at the basis of it, in even like SWAT and things like that, failure is not an option on the human hierarchy.
No.
Failure is death. So there's a little kicker in there that will change your behavior slightly. That's why if there's something in your life that you're like, I have to do this.
Yeah.
But man, I'm struggling. It could be I have to lose weight. I have to, do this thing with my company. I have to learn to be a better listener, whatever it is. You got to find a reason why failure in that is not an option. And that's why you got to do some soul searching as to, okay, who am I as a person? How does this thing I want to do relate to who I am as a person?
Yes.
And it was just like with my daughter, is like, I will die before I allow her to grow up with a father who, is an alcoholic. Like, I'm not going to let that happen.
Right.
Or a dad who just checked out and, grandma had to take her for, that's not, and there's certain situations where that's just what has to happen.
Yeah.
But in my situation, that's the hill that I die on.
Yeah.
And that's what allowed me to get out of bed in the morning and say, nope, I will die on this hill of that. So with zero physical energy, with zero natural motivation, zero of any of the tools I had naturally for a long time, I was able to get out of bed and do what I needed to do. And that's why it's like, you got to find something, man, if there's something in your life you want to do, whether it's the person who is, they want to be the successful person, they can't figure it out. Man, if they could find a reason why failure is not an option, and not so much like, I want a Lambo so bad, it's who am I?
Yeah.
Am I willing to die one day? And the world is like, yeah, well, they thought they were a hard worker, but they're not really a hard worker. Like if someone were to say that I was lazy, if someone were to call me lazy, that would, if somebody I respected called me lazy,
Yeah.
I
That
couldn't
would floor
go
you.
to bed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some people would be like, well, fuck that guy. That would floor me. Like there's certain things, it's a hill you'll die on, and you got to find those in your life.
I like the hill that you'll die on. It almost seems like if people can figure out, you talk about purpose, you talk about a hill you're going to die on or whatever. Those are the things that I think bring out everything that is you.
Oh, yeah.
Like there's nothing left on the table. You've pulled every ounce of resource that is possible and put that on. I watched last night, couldn't fall asleep, watched Zero Dark 30 before I went to sleep. And the last scene before it cuts the film, she's sitting in that large carrier. What do you call that kind of carrier? The one where it's mostly like a cargo aircraft.
The C-130?
I think it was the C-130.
I think it was the C-130.
It's the C-130. You know where it drops the bed and she walked on? You guys have all seen that movie,
It
right?
is a hard film to get through that last scene.
She sits in that chair in tears because her whole...
She's lost her purpose.
Yeah.
She lost
What's the name of this movie?
Zero Dark Thirty.
Zero Dark Thirty. So it's
Don't give me shit. I'll look it up, man.
No. So it's the whole story of, so it was an analyst that they brought in from the CIA, and they pulled her from college.
It's Bin Laden,
and
bro.
they said, you are going
9/11.
to hunt down Bin Laden. And that was her sole responsibility working for the CIA. So once they took him out, so she watched the whole thing from the feed of the Predator drone. Yeah. And once he was taken out, she was like, well, that's
Netflix?
it.
Well, that's Don
This
Quixote.
Netflix?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Don Quixote. I mean, it's
I think it's
that
Netflix.
story of like,
Just
enemy's
go
gone.
on your phone,
Wow.
look it
I
up.
need to look at that.
You need to watch this film.
I need to watch that.
Now, that to me was very profound because her whole existence in the CIA was solely and singularly focused on acquiring Osama bin Laden.
Yeah.
So much so that she alienated everybody.
Yes.
And so I had an opportunity to work with the CIA for a lot of years, and I got to go into it was pretty cool.
You like work with everybody.
Well, no. So that
Now listen, we're being recorded. You can't share.
we can't. Are we supposed to be here?
So you know the whole thing is, for my payment stubs, I couldn't say, as far as the organization, I couldn't say CIA. I just had to say U.S. government. Like, it's so clean.
Yes.
Like the way that like
State
we go-
Department.
Like we go to their facility. And the weird thing is that they would commit their life to this one objective. Some of them, especially like if they're trying to, and when we worked with groups, they wouldn't let us know. They just, we're all analysts.
Yeah.
All
Or security
analysts.
officers. So I've interacted with a couple of them.
Yeah.
They'll be like, I'm a security officer. It's like, what's your actual title? Security officer.
So it's analysts, or they just have these bullshit
Yes.
titles. But we're talking about purpose, and we're talking about a life conundrum of ends and means. So they're talking about, what's your purpose? Well, my values are this and that. Okay, so you go be dishonest and flip somebody. So you do whatever it takes to flip somebody. Like you literally, and when I mean everything,
Everything's on the
the
table.
most successful CIA agents were females for a good reason.
Oh, that totally makes sense.
And
Flip me. Oh,
Yeah,
fuck.
it's-
Never mind.
they were. They stood
Edit
up.
that
We're
part.
gonna edit that.
So
That's why you have the KGB and FSB. I mean,
Yeah.
they were
Oh,
very good at human
it's all
intelligence.
well, so they would. So like she's sitting there crying because they have given. When they say, when we say we've given everything, it means usually it's like, I gave a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. She compromised her values. Everything. So
She went like this.
Yes, like everything it takes. So for them, and we would have some of these private conversations. This woman once she wanted to talk to me. She goes, I understand what we're talking about here. She goes, but understand that my livelihood, and she's like, in this country we live in, depends on the fact
Our country.
that because shit goes down, and so she said it depends on the fact that she goes, my career and my commitment is to essentially sabotage and tricking somebody.
Manipulation.
Because, but if you ask me what my values are not manipulation. She goes, that would, to manipulate a friend. She goes, but it's this conundrum. And so I think that's applicable because, yes, in the CIA, it's an interesting, sort of.
It's almost like an operator getting deployed and he gets dropped in a target zone and he takes out a bunch of targets, doesn't know them, doesn't know who they are, doesn't know their family, doesn't know anything. It's the job. And then he goes back home and he wouldn't so much as hit somebody with a rake who's a neighbor. That's what was my point was of sitting with these guys. They're like the nicest guys.
Yeah, but
cordial, polite, but if they have if they're deployed on an operation, it's execute. And I think, like you said, these CIA agents or all this other stuff, because the goal is bigger than them.
Yes, and that's what they all say. It's bigger than they
It's
commit
bigger
to
than
that.
it's literally the country. Like while we're all sitting here in this beautiful place, doing this show, having amazing scotch, not a care in the world. We're going to get in our cars. We're going to drive home.
Yeah.
There are people who are not sleeping to make sure that we have this privilege.
Oh,
Absolutely.
and in order to make that happen, there's some ugly shit that goes down that
we'll never see.
That's
and
necessary.
That's necessary, but then that's a whole nother conversation. And so it was really interesting working with them because here we're talking about these values, and they're like, well, if we followed our values,
couldn't do the job.
Couldn't do the job, which means that we couldn't be the country we are right now.
Which means we all screwed.
Yeah, it's a crazy notion. Like the role of abandoning values for the greater good. And is that the greater good? If you're, it's like if I'm going to help my mom, but I need to run 3 people off the road in order to help my mom. Do the ends justify the means?
Exactly. Then it gets
it's a conversation.
It's a paradox you enter.
It's a paradox, and it's a conversation that they would. I got pulled aside a lot of times. Like, listen, here's the deal. This is all great, but I'm struggling. This because the older they get, they start to have these, existential crises. Where it's like my whole life has been in deviance, and
So, Brett, you've shifted into this career. So how did you have to kind of adjust during COVID and then getting through COVID, the passing of your wife, now raising your daughter? How did you have to adjust your traveling schedule? Because you were on the road. You were in different parts of the world all of the time.
You're talking like during COVID?
Yeah. And, living in your purpose. So how did you go from being on the road, because I know how it feels. I was traveling and getting on and off planes. It was exciting. It was fun.
That's the whole thing. There is a certain part of it where it is exhilarating. You feel like you're Mr. Worldwide. It feels good.
And then March 13th.
People had you fly to them and talk to them?
Man, let me tell you something, baby.
Really?
I'm the shit. Yo, no. But
I hate and love you so much.
But it was so much fun. And then March 13th, it's like, damn, all of my speaking engagements are canceled.
Yeah.
Then you get through that. It's like, damn, my woman is gone.
Yeah.
Now I got to raise this girl. How did you adjust from March 13th, 2020, right now?
So I was actually
why you gotta
flying
get deep?
home.
Man, I gotta get there, baby.
This is what he does.
I was flying home from Orlando doing a program with the CIA.
Wow.
When their BlackBerries start blowing up and their meetings are getting canceled. And they're
everybody was on BlackBerry back then.
They are because of security.
Yeah.
And this woman, I finally asked this woman, I was like, hey, my flight goes through Newark. I got a shitty flight home. It's going through Newark. She goes, cancel that flight. And she's like, don't go through New York because shit could hit the fan in the next 24 hours because the CIA's meetings and internal things are being canceled.
Dude, you're in the know.
So I went through Houston and I got home and my wife had been in D.C. and she got home. But it was crazy the first, 3 weeks. She was in the mortgage industry. I'm in the speaking industry. I went to zero. They canceled everything. And she's like, our mortgage company could go under. If everyone all of a sudden can't work and blah, blah, blah. So we're like, everything we built is just gone. So that was a terror. It was fear. But then things like they realized that they actually went public. So they went from we might die to we're going to become this huge company. And I went from they canceled everything to 3 weeks in. I had a company contact me and say, hey, do you have any virtual product? And I didn't, but I said,
Yeah.
Hell yeah. That's exactly what I did.
You have to be adaptable.
Yes, I got the PowerPoint ready now.
So they said, well, let's pilot that.
Because they needed to make money too.
Well, and they also, the thing was they had employees that needed to be engaged.
Yes.
They were getting some PEP money, and they knew. So they had, my business went ape shit because all these companies essentially kind of had time, and they had some money. Yeah. So I was doing virtual stuff. I worked a job. It was Tuesday, Thursday.
Yeah.
I lined these companies up from East Coast 5 in the morning till 1 in the afternoon.
Yes.
Those were the days that I would facilitate and speak. And I did some keynotes and but it got to the point where I didn't enjoy. It was a great business model, but I didn't enjoy the virtual whatever.
Yeah. You liked it in person.
I liked it in person. And 2021 was a weird year because it was transitioning sort of out of it, but they couldn't. And so that was a weird year. It just was a shitty year for my business, everything. And then things started to come, move back, and then the passing of my wife, which there's no way I could personally do it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was about 6 months after that I said, okay, what's the future going to be? I don't want to be solely, the virtual is a product that I have that I can offer, but I don't want that to be my main business.
Right. Yeah.
I can't fly around the world but I still can, once a quarter I can probably go and do something.
Mm-hmm.
And so just defining what am I willing to do? Where do I stand as a father, and what do I need for my work and income and all this? And I just kind of created a model, which is, what I'm doing today is prioritize locally, but then be willing to do more virtual, creating different products to reach more people that are virtual products and books and educational materials versus me having to show up as the facilitator, as the speaker, because that pay is great. But
Yes, it is.
your ass has got to be in the seat.
Yes.
I got to be there. I got to get on a plane to
Yeah,
get to Houston and then go from Houston
That's
to go to Providence.
That's time for money.
Yeah, it is. And so it's, regardless of how much money it is, it's still time for money. And so it's been a revamp. And so, it's building. It's a lot of saying no, which is, I love what I do. So to say no to any
painful,
of it is painful
Heck yeah,
because
man.
the money's good. I love what I do, but I can't, that's not a sustainable model in my life anymore. And so it's changing that. It's scary.
Yeah.
It's going from being extremely successful to like, oh, well, let's just start over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Did the COVID make you feel that way a little bit?
yeah, well, COVID, not so much, because COVID was actually a successful part of my business. It was losing my wife literally made me feel like, well, at 47, let's start this whole life thing over again. Like I had my soulmate, I had my career, I had everything. And then it's like, okay, well, let's start over.
What the hell, yeah.
And I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but the tools that I've learned over the years and my community and all those things have allowed me to not move on, but just be able to move forward.
Yeah.
But again, you surrounded yourself with so many elite athletes, mentors. And so when you went through, if I could use this term, that dark place, you were able to fall back on those principles that you learned, that you shared.
And lived and trained. And that's really what it is. It's I encourage everyone to look at their life. Be like, okay, if my thought process, if I'm training shitty thought processes, if I'm, if every day it's just like I'm bitching and I'm negative, well, don't see that as an indictment. Just see it as data. Say, wait, this is what I do. It's not like this is what I do and it makes me a bad person. No, let's just say, hey, this is what I do and I don't want to train this anymore. So you go get help. You work with someone like me, or you go to a therapist, or you go get help and start the right type of training that's going to take you to where you want to go, because you're going to get better at being shitty.
You head down the same path.
Yes.
Because you don't know how to deviate.
Yeah. And so it's interesting that you brought up therapists, because that's what I forgot about.
Yeah, you need one. Because I got one.
That's just rude.
But it's also real.
But anyway,
Every week, baby.
this is not about me. This is about Brett.
Yeah, exactly. Therapists deal with that anger.
So I've known some people who have gone through some traumatic experiences and they're redefining their purpose. Right? Let's call it that. And the natural inclination is to reach out to a therapist. And I mean, it sounds like all I'm trying to do is beat up on life coaches and therapists, but I'm not. But in many cases I've found, because, you have to go through an interview and spend some time with the right therapist to write the fight, square pegging around hole kind of thing. The one thing that happens with a therapist is that oftentimes they help you from an emotional standpoint. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't have a therapist. And it doesn't necessarily tangibly connect to the action items that are your career and your lifestyle that are necessary to create the environment for you to be prosperous and make it towards your goal. So even though you can't invalidate the importance of getting emotionally stable, this is actually a plug for life coaches, is that you're taking not only the emotional aspect,
Yeah.
but you're taking the physical aspect,
Yep.
and then your chosen profession.
The
that
financial,
is
the
that
service
is
aspect.
fundamentally
Yeah.
the substrate to your lifestyle.
Yeah.
Right? And pulling them all together.
Yep.
And making sure they're all in congruence
Yep.
so that you have a stable, prosperous
Yeah.
kind of trajectory for you to scale, right?
Which is my belief is it's this 360. Because if anyone says, "Oh, money's not important,"
Bullshit.
Hell yeah.
it's
Bull.
like
We wouldn't be in here if we didn't pay our damn bills.
But you exchange money for food. You exchange
Yep.
money for shelter.
Yes.
Unless you're
It's
out
a
in the
resource
wilderness,
to generate a result.
And if someone says money's not important and they never bitch, it's like, okay, they got to figure it out.
Whatever.
But most people that say money's not important, it's like, money's not important. I wish that person shouldn't have a lot of money. And this person's shitty because they have a lot of money. And so it goes, I just don't respect that view at all. But I will say that if you, and I was very blessed, in this whole process, God put people into my life. And it took the most important person in my world away, but he put some very important people back into my life. And the fact that we were able to find a therapist who I could vibe with, because you're
Important. It's important.
So the thing with therapy is,
If you don't mind sharing,
Boy,
you actually had a therapist.
1,000%, and I'll still go. I don't go monthly anymore, but it's kind of as needed, and I'll be probably going this month as just a checkup, keep
I
it
get
going.
it.
But
I get it.
I really kind of had this belief that therapists were a little out of touch.
Mm-hmm.
That
Same.
it just wasn't like. And my personality, boy, I'll tell you, I don't work for people. I've always worked for myself, and I don't necessarily trust other people's authority.
Right.
And so I wouldn't want to be my therapist, because I'm going to go in there and be like, "You're full of shit that you don't know." And God gave my daughter and I this woman who she was able to manage me and got my respect right off the bat.
She figured you out.
She figured me out and was willing to, she understood what the vibe needed to be in order for me to feel comfortable. And had that not have happened, I don't know what, but she connected with my daughter immediately. And then she was a major part in me being able to have the initiative and interest in moving forward. And so, but anyone looking for, I very much value therapy, but I think it's important that you select someone that is going to match who you are. Because I'd been to therapists in the past, and it was a nightmare. I just walked out.
I've been to some, and I'm like, you're full of shit.
Yeah, it's just like, you're full of shit. Like, you're just reading off a script.
Yep.
Then you find the right person, it's like, oh, I get it. Like, she was willing to listen and not just be like, okay, well then what is this? Okay, then what is this? It was like, she listened and was like,
I literally sat in
call me on some
a
bullshit.
therapy session where I finished at the end, and I was probing for questions, and she looked at me square in the eye, and she said, well, I can't really help you. You seem like you're all good to go.
So I had a woman do that
And I'm
too.
like,
I was like,
you fucking don't know what you're talking about, because all my
I'm
friends
all
think I
fucked up.
fucking need like a lot of fucking help. And she
that
was just like,
happens too.
you seem like you're very, which she was right. She said, you're very comfortable in your own skin.
yeah.
When you say what you do, you genuinely mean it.
Yep.
You're very clear and succinct. You're authentic. She goes, I don't know that I can really help you or whatever. And I just sat there and I'm like,
See, my therapist, Caribbean, black man, he understands the shit I grew up with. So I could.
he calls your bullshit.
Oh yeah. I was like, yo, man, I snapped. He said, now, Lem, you need to calm down, boy. Calm down.
He's got that.
He's got
He
the
brings the accent
and
out.
he reels me back in. I
But
said,
he
I'm
knows how
about
to talk to you.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
I
the
said, because
whole
I'm
thing.
about to fuck shit up, man.
Yeah.
And he's like, no.
But
He
there's
said,
a respect.
There's a respect.
Yes, 100%.
And so sometimes, as Brett was saying, you got to find that person that you vibe with.
Well, it's a level of
Yeah.
understanding that they have.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And they're not afraid of your bullshit.
Yeah.
Because he will lean in, like when we was living on the East Coast, he would lean into his desk. He said, are you done?
Yeah. No, that's the same thing.
And I would sit back. I'm like, I'm not scared of you. And then my mind's like, yes, you are, motherfucker. You scared of him?
But it's the same thing. It's like, I think it's certain personalities, though.
Yes.
Because I've coached.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
You know, I know how to coach people. So
Yeah.
you better come. I will be the best student. You better come correct.
Yeah.
Like if you limp in,
Yes.
this is 6 months ago. I walked out of a physical therapy session. Walked out. Because this guy was like, I know a lot about the human body. I was having this hip problem, and this guy was just like, well, let's try some of this. I was like, oh, kind of like, why are we doing that? Well, because of this. I'm like, and I'm not being a dick. I'm just being like, so
I get
explain.
it.
And it's like,
It's your time and money.
Let's try something else. So he literally, because I was
figuring
like,
it
what
out.
are we doing? What are we doing here? He was intimidated because I just asked him, and so he switched. So he had me do this thing, and I just got my shit and I left. Yeah. I was like, I'm not.
I'm with you.
I mean, I got a job at my university doing that.
What?
Questioning, yes. Because, so, of course, like we had mentioned before, it's like I have quite an experience in manufacturing, started as a machinist, and so when I went to university, it's like I had this experience under my belt. And so during one of my freshman year classes, one of my professors, he was talking about different sorts of machining of components. We were talking about aluminum specifically, and I brought up a very probing question. And he was almost offended by it. He's like, how do you know that?
Yeah.
And so he
Professors
started
don't
questioning me,
like
so I
that.
questioned him back, and he almost got offended. And he's like,
Yeah.
I want to see you at my office.
That's why I
after
didn't do
class.
well in grad school.
Yeah,
didn't
and
do
I'm like,
well.
what do you mean? And so I go there, and we have a little conversation, and at first I thought this guy's going to be pissed at me. It's like I questioned his authority in a classroom, and I didn't mean to. It was just he had said something that wasn't particularally quite right, because
You made
I've
that
done
shit.
it before.
You do it all the time.
And so the funniest thing
I
is,
invented aluminum.
aluminium. But no kidding, 5 minutes in that conversation, he's like, well, do you want to come work for me?
Yeah. You know why he did that, right?
Oh shit.
Because he didn't want to be humiliated anymore.
No, he paid you off to shut you up.
Yeah.
That's what he did.
That's what it was. Yeah.
He paid
He
you
wanted
off
to
to
be
shut you up.
humiliated.
Yeah, going back to CIA agents, paying me off back here.
Yeah.
Just be quiet.
Yeah,
You
just
got
be
some back
quiet.
there,
money.
I don't want to debate you because everybody else is not following.
Exactly.
So-
So it's like it's having that experience and going into that. It gives you like a higher level of understanding. So
Yeah.
looking for that therapist,
It's key.
yeah,
I'm about to put you on the spot.
Hit it up.
like you did earlier.
Yeah, all right. So, in our networking group, we have
Is this Laura's networking group?
this is Team Referral. She's the franchise owner.
Yeah, no, she was on the show.
Yeah, I know.
I know who she is.
Yeah, but it ain't her group. It's our
It's
group.
kind of her group.
Yeah, she owner.
I'm gonna tell her you said that.
She gonna see the damn shop. She know Brett's on.
Laura, I'm sorry.
I said it. But no, so we have a team member tip of the week, and we also have a team member that's the main speaker. So
My
Brett,
God, I know where this is
so
going.
Brett did
okay.
a tip.
What was the tip?
It was a breathing exercise, and it kind of really helped the room. So I
would have called bullshit. I would have said to him like, Brett,
If you were there, you wouldn't have.
So Brett,
I'm like, damn it, Brett, I'm not doing this shit.
Brett,
Wait, I've seen the video actually.
you saw it? Okay.
Yes, it's on his website. Is that the
So-
one?
That's
You
not
are
the one.
not,
That's
I
not
do
the
not
one.
fucking
So
doing this
Brett-
exercise.
I want you to help my very frustrated and angry friend.
I'm not fucking doing the
You're
exercise.
gonna fucking do it.
I'm not fucking doing
so-
the exercise.
So come on, Brett. Take us through the exercise.
Hi, Mike. So,
Damn it!
hey,
All right, Mike, you're gonna learn today.
Put your drink down. Put your
Do
drink
I
down.
look like
Mike.
I breathe?
hey,
Yes, you're breathing.
It's a very full show.
Come on, Brett. Help us, Brett.
how many days can you go without eating food or drinking water?
5 minutes.
3
So you
days
go in,
drinking.
you probably go a
3
week.
weeks eating.
You might be able to go a little bit longer.
Are you saying, my man? That was fucking good. That was good. That was good. That was good.
I told you you got a vibe,
That's
baby.
good. You know what? Brett, why don't you join me in the gym? We'll go in the ring. We'll go 12 rounds. We'll see how long I can last. All right.
But-
So you're asking,
Couple days, like without
you're asking me
food
to
or water.
guess because I've never gone
Yeah,
without
like, so,
food.
I mean,
Obviously.
You think maybe like a week.
Well,
something like.
it's
How
the
long
rule
can
of
you
3.
go without air? How long can you go without breathing? Minute,
shit, I don't
2
know.
minutes,
Minute.
probably, yeah. So you can see there's a huge disparity. Like if you, food and water, we're good for it, but breathing. So it only makes sense
I fucking hate you.
that your brain sits there and is like, okay, shit. Like we got to keep an eye on food and water.
Right.
But man, we got to keep a probe in breathing because if you fuck up,
I don't think about breathing though. It's just
Well,
involuntary.
it is. But your brain is always, it's not just saying, do we have breath? It's saying, how deep is it? How frequent is it? What's the duration of each breath?
Well, have you been diving?
No. So my point is that I don't think about breath. Yeah. So whatever quantity of oxygen I take in is involuntary.
But have you been diving before? Because diving puts into perspective.
So to my point,
I'm not a fucking diver, so I have nothing to do with it.
I need you two fucking engineers to shut the fuck up. Listen to the executive coach.
Okay, fine. I'm shutting up.
No more.
I'm shutting up.
Hit it.
He started it.
Yeah.
Okay, so breathe. You have to breathe either way. Mm-hmm. The whole thing is your brain's listening. Okay, how fast are you breathing? How deep are you breathing? All these different things. Your brain's just constantly listening to that because a change in breathing is a major signal for danger. So if a lion busts into the room, we're going to perceive danger and our breathing is going to change because we're going to get ready for fight or flight.
Agreed.
So our breathing has to change.
Agreed.
But what happens is a lion could have busted in your house a week ago, and that could have been something goes wrong at work, something goes sideways, and you breathed as if the lion was there because our brains are stupid. Like, we don't have to deal with lions anymore, but a dead lion at work's a lion. Yeah. So we do that. Mm-hmm. Well, if you're not aware of your breath and if you have no regulation, it just keeps going with that. Mm-hmm. So it switches from, I see a lion, I freak out, to, I don't see a lion, but my breathing is breathing as if, so your brain's like, there must be a lion, we just can't see it.
Copy that.
Mm-hmm. And so what happens is, because your brain's so responsive to that, you start using, you have your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic nervous system's your freak out, all that, very expedient, very short term. Parasympathetic, rest, digest, more long term. What happens is, because your brain's like, I can't see the lion, but apparently there's a lion here because of what you're doing, you start to use, as your default mode, you start to use that freak out brain to make decisions, to have interactions. It's always there. It's driving your psychology, your physiology, and everything. The good news is, if you manually override that with a simple breathing strategy, at the end of the day, breathe out for longer than you breathe in. That's all you got to think about. Breathe out for longer, because when you breathe out for longer than you breathe in, it sends a powerful message to your brain, like, listen, not only can I get oxygen in, I have plenty of oxygen, I can decide how quickly I get rid of CO2. So your brain's like, whoa, there's definitely no lion here because you're doing that. It actually shifts the real estate in your brain that's making decisions. And so a breathing exercise can literally shift. It's the fastest way. There's all kinds of ways to shift your state. Breathing is the fastest way to shift your state. And shifting your state's important in the moment, but if you do it enough, meditation, a regular meditation practice, they've shown that it actually can dampen your startle response. So your startle response, if I walk in here and slap you, the assumption is, as a human being, you're just going to get up and we're going to fight. That's just the assumption. There's nothing you can do about it.
Correct.
You got assaulted.
It's a reflex.
Yeah, it's a reflex. So that's been the assumption for thousands of years. Well, they did research on monks. And monks, they did it both when they're in a meditative state and out of a meditative state, because they train their brains constantly for this. So they put these headphones on, and they would and then the biometric data. So they're reading brain scans, they're reading heart rate, all this. So they'd randomly just crank AC/DC or whatever. Just And they found that when they would crank AC/DC on these monks, both in the meditative state, which is not that surprising, and when not in a meditative state, they're just hanging out, the part of their brain that would process that loud and then the physiological response was more in line with what we are neurologically and physiologically. It's more aligned with the empathy response than it was with actually the fight or flight response. And so it actually used a different
from
part
their
of the brain,
training,
which they thought that was impossible. They thought that now that isn't a good default mode necessarily from a survival standpoint for humans.
Right.
However, it is important to note that, like, if we as leaders
can be trained,
because emotional intelligence is one of the. So if we have leaders, I don't care who it is, the model of leadership where you're a seagull leader, where you just shit on stuff and then you bail or you freak out, that's ineffective leadership. I don't care what anybody says, it's ineffective leadership. And whether it's leadership, communication, relationship building, connection, it's shitty. You don't want to be that way. And so breathing strategy is one of the things. And I walk these guys through a couple different things, but honestly, all right, so
hold on, I have a comment. So you correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't know this for a fact. But I did read an article about operators when they're in a situation and they have to compartmentalize.
Yep.
They go through a breathing exercise.
Yes.
The box breathing is.
It's the box breathing.
Yes.
So I do that.
Yeah.
I do that where I hold my breath. I forget the quantity.
Four. It's 4 on that one.
Yeah. So I actually ended up doing it. I'm not doing it right, but I ended up doing it where I felt that I needed to exhale.
Yeah.
And then I did a really long exhale before I took in another tank of air. And then I held it until I felt like I need. And I do that 4 times. And I literally, so I have not super aggressive, but I have fairly aggressive ADD.
Yep.
So I'm off Adderall right now, but I have been taking Adderall for better part of a decade. So I'm probably going to go on it again because I have lack of dopamine. I have so many ideas, difficulty to focus.
Yeah.
And it just, with what I have to do in my projects that I want to do, it doesn't solve anything.
Yeah.
It just gives me a hair's edge
Yep.
for me to be able to go, okay, I see all 100 projects, but I know I'm only working on this one.
Yeah.
So those can go over here and I'll work on this one. I still see them all.
Yep.
Without it, I got to touch all 100.
Yep.
It's just impossible for me to shut it down.
Yeah.
So the breathing allows me, because I can feel my heart rate and my pulse elevating whenever I'm motivated towards a target.
Yeah.
And I'm like chasing it, I get anxious. And that makes me, because I'm a fairly aggressive person anyway, it makes me aggressive. And I know that that's not conducive to being a controlled kind of person, in personal and business. So I have, and you just reminded me, I haven't done that exercise in a while.
Yeah.
So this is similar to that. Am I wrong?
It is. It's all you're doing is you're regulating your physiology and your psychology, and
breathing is really important for that.
Well, so I went most of my life. I mean, it was like 2017, 18 that I really dug into this breathing. I went most of my life saying, "Oh, breathing's really important." Breathing is it. That's like my point. Like, and that's when I came to that realization. Like, oh shit, your brain. Of anything that goes on in your body, your brain is most in tune, physiologically, it's most in tune to your quality and quantity, depth, frequency, and breathing. So just purely, it depends, like the most analytical, because it's for so long, I was like, yeah, it's Eastern philosophy.
Right.
It's the most primordial instinct.
Yes, it is literally the most logical. If you look at it's the most logical way to regulate your psychology and physiology, but we just don't embrace it in Western culture. I'm an everyday meditator now, 20 minutes. And it's changed.
I can't calm myself down to meditate.
Well, understand that I couldn't either. It's like saying, well, I can't run a marathon.
Fair.
So it's
fair.
And acknowledging the importance of having access to the most powerful part of your brain.
Yeah.
Because all too often we embrace, in America, it's funny, we embrace, my mind won't shut down. That's a wink, wink, because I'm so fucking smart.
Yeah.
That's a wink, wink, I'm just so smart. My brain works. It's almost a bragging.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of it's just like, it's like, what comes out of that? It's when do your best ideas come to you? When you're sitting there saying, come on, think. Or it's when you get out of the shower.
That's right.
You get on the walk.
Yeah.
So we have to embrace and acknowledge the fact that a calm mind is a powerful mind. Once we embrace that, it changes everything. You realize, oh, yeah, I can drive hard. I can be a shark. But that starts with having the calm, strong mind that puts me in the right direction.
So you just reminded me of that. I'm sorry, let me just finish this thought. You just reminded me of that. Now I'm going to include you. None of y'all talk about my fat ass. But back when I wasn't a fat ass, I used to use the altitude mask.
Yeah.
So you know a lot about this.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, it's like a hyperbaric chamber or something like that.
I hate running in those.
It's
terrible.
It's fucking worthless. But
Is it worthless?
Stupid.
So I'm just personal experience. I'm just telling you what I personally experienced. So you have these little dials and these little pieces of plastic that you can put that inhibit the airflow. So you put this. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No,
so you put this mask on, right? So I used to go and I used to go 12 rounds, 3-minute rounds, 30 seconds of rest between rounds, doing Muay Thai on a heavy bag, and I used to wear the mask. It's very difficult to breathe in them. It's really hard. So purposely. So it simulates, quote unquote, 18,000 feet. So, you ever climbed a mountain?
No.
Okay, so if you hike on a mountain,
Once you
the
get
air
above
gets
10,000
thinner.
feet, yes.
You start getting headaches and you start getting loopy. So it doesn't completely simulate it, but it basically inhibits your oxygen intake to simulate that. So if you're doing Muay Thai rounds for 12 rounds, you have to, this is the most important part, you have to learn to calm the fuck down.
It's big in martial arts.
Because if you go one round and you try and overdo it, your ass will literally pass out. Yeah. You know how you get the needles in your muscles and you start getting lightheaded and you pass out?
Yeah,
you will pass out. So you learn to calm the fuck down. So I have that mass set aside for when anyway. So when I go back to training, I have that mass set aside as a goal so that I can go back to that. Throw it away? Okay, so we'll talk.
So Brett, so
you're just going to shit on my story.
I am.
Well,
I talk about
exercise.
Me doing something with exercise and you're going to fuck it up?
It's about fucking time. I'm glad this has now been the catalyst.
I need a cheeseburger.
Can
you order a cheeseburger?
After the show.
Wait, you're not supposed to breathe in a cheeseburger.
So for the folks...
It smells good.
For the folks that are watching, listening, for us, the crew,
you're going to talk about
give us that
fat.
one quick exercise.
All right, so my
Put the
favorite
drink down,
exercise...
How opportune.
So yes, after that.
Wait, I gotta slow down my breathing.
So Dr. Weil, is very, very popular in the wellness field and everything. He's worked with a lot of things, and so he coined the 4-7-8 breath, and physiologically it matches very well to the way our body responds to breathing. So when you breathe in, it stimulates your heart rate will go up if you breathe in.
Okay.
It stimulates your sympathetic nervous system when you breathe in.
Okay.
When you hold your breath, you increase CO2. Well, generally, you don't want high CO2 levels. However, if you've been stress breathing, you've created a situation where it's kind of shallow and it's not. You've created a situation where there isn't enough CO2 because you haven't been fully exhaling. You haven't been fully inhaling. There isn't actually, you need some CO2 to bind that oxygen. You need some CO2 to bring the oxygen into the cell.
Okay.
So you can actually have too low CO2. So when you hold your breath for a controlled, purposeful amount of time, usually a short period of time, it actually will stimulate your parasympathetic nervous system, which is backwards, but it actually will make you more relaxed. One of the side effects of this when people drown high CO2 is they get relaxed and they fall asleep. And so CO2 can do. Now, we don't want to shoot for high CO2, but you can regulate CO2. So you breathe in, heart rate goes up, hold your breath. You elevate CO2 slightly, which can actually help with gas exchange and slight relaxation. And then when you breathe out, if you breathe out for longer than you breathe in, it stimulates your parasympathetic, which is your breath to digest.
That's what feels good.
Yeah, so when you breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for about 7 seconds, and then exhale for 8 seconds. So try.
All right.
So I'll count it out. So breathe in for 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Another round. Breathe in for 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you do some more rounds of that.
Why you gotta close your eyes?
It regulates the CO2.
I didn't want to look at your ugly fucking mouth.
I thought you were going to take a drink there at the end. I
was going to do it when I was holding my breath. Felt the heart rate drop.
You feel the heart rate drop, but it's understanding the importance because we think in America
I actually feel pretty good.
Success, but the thing is,
I'm sorry.
We think of success as being like this drug. Like we're addicted to adrenaline, and adrenaline's great, and it can motivate us to do things. But it's always important to remember that our best ideas, our best perspectives, don't come in that frenetic state. They come in these calm states. So to accept the notion of a racing mind, my mind's always, to accept that is accepting a much lower level of performance. But in America, it's celebrated. So and that's a big change I've made in my life. And that's
so you
really
don't chase
meditation.
adrenaline.
Oh, I do. I'm an adrenaline person, but I'm aware of it. It's controlled. I chase adrenaline not from being. I chase it on purpose. I mountain bike, I ski, do all that stuff.
That's different.
But I stay away from the adrenaline from busy. Because busy.
Come on, yeah, I like that.
Busy is not a metric of anything meaningful.
No.
Yes.
So I chase adrenaline being busy.
Yeah, and the problem with busy is that
Help them.
Well, I've shared, but here's the thing. So I can tell you this, and I'm just as guilty. But when I keynote, I'll sit there. Whoever invited me to the keynote, I'll sit. They'll have me sometimes it's a breakfast, lunch, dinner, whatever it is. I'll sit with them at a table, and they'll bring over some people to sit with us, and we're having a conversation. If the person at the table is talking about how busy they are, I know they're not a high level leader. I know they're probably lower in the organization.
Agreed. Yeah. That's a tell.
And so it's a tell because people that are busy are sort of suckers for irrelevance. Now, not people that are busy, but people that
not wrong.
talk. Well,
it's not wrong.
We're all busy, but people that talk about how busy they are and they just say yes to everything and they do everything and they just want to show the world. Again, it's
I don't even know if it's show the world. They want to show the mirror.
Well,
they want to look in the mirror and they want to know, hey.
It's the world, though, because we celebrate it. Like, if we walked in here, it's like, hey, how you been? Like, man, I've been chilling, man. Cool.
You guys can back me up. I don't give a fuck what people think.
True.
But I care about the guy in the mirror.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if I look in the guy in the mirror and he looks back at me and says, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
What did you accomplish today? What did you chase today? And the answer is not good. The guy coming back at me, who I see in the reflection, he's the drill sergeant. Yeah. And he's doing what he does to the SEAL teams. Why is your shirt dirty? Yeah. Go fucking run in the ocean and roll around in the sand.
Well, it's go get dirty, go do something. And I suffer from that. And so that's the one thing that meditation's helped is it's helped tie me more. So I want my efforts to create an outcome. I don't want my efforts just for the sake of efforts anymore. My efforts need to be tied to an outcome. That I found
that's really important. Efforts need to be tied to outcomes.
Yeah, it's output and outcome have to be tied together.
Yeah, write that shit down.
Yeah, I'm writing it down. It's going on the reel.
If your output, like busy, is output without outcome. It's just, I'm busy. Well, what does that mean?
Yeah. Like sometimes though, you're doing that. Go ahead, bro. You were going to say something.
Yeah, because I see that a lot. So I work, of course, at a big corporate company, and you see that a lot where it's just you just need to stay busy, and it's not necessarily you're actually providing anything for the company of value or for yourself or anyone else. It's
activity.
Just exactly. I have to be doing something.
Yeah.
So that way, other
answering emails at 11 at night.
Someone sees me actively doing something. It's like, well, that must mean I'm accomplishing something.
Okay,
and it feeds that drug in your mind. That's like, well, I'm accomplishing.
But that's if you're a part of a team. But if you're running a company and you're an entrepreneur, you are busy because you're trying to fucking figure it out. You're trying to try as many different things as possible to see what generates the best result. So you have to stay busy because if you haven't figured out...
Yeah, but there's still the result side of it.
But I understand that. But you're staying busy for the purpose of solving a problem versus staying busy so you can tell people that you're busy.
Right.
Yeah, I don't give a shit about that. Yeah. But sometimes you can waste a lot of time being busy, trying to find the solution, and you're looking for it in all the wrong places. You'd be better to
step away for an hour.
Yeah, or to your point, pull in a mentor or a coach and say, it's like you hire the plumber, you pay him $500 to come into your house and like, what the fuck did you do? You've been here 10 minutes. Yeah. He goes, yeah, that pipe's bad. And you're like, I paid you $500 to be here 10 minutes?
It took you 5 days.
It took me a week to figure it out.
Yeah. But, I like, I know how you're saying that person, looking at that person in the mirror.
Right.
For me personally, when I take that one day off in the week, if I've been hitting it hard for 6 weeks, I've attended networking, I've sent emails, I've had a successful event. Oh, I'm going to take that Monday or Thursday or that random day. I'm not doing anything. Because in that moment, and you already know where I'm going to the golf course.
No,
in
but
that
that's
moment
your thing.
on the golf course or in your moment of hitting that bag is when the next great idea is going to come.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to feel bad at 7 p.m. because I played 4.5 hours of golf. No. And I went and got a Subway sandwich and watched mindless television for another 2 hours.
Yeah. So the different working with Olympic athletes versus working with average athletes. So when I went to the Olympic Training Center, I thought my biggest takeaway was going to be like, man, like learning hard work, learning intensity. I thought I was just going to see these just coaches screaming at athletes going crazy. And
these are Olympic athletes.
Olympic athletes, yeah, world-class athletes. So I thought that was what I was going to just, and let me tell you, I mean, their level of intensity and everything is crazy, but that wasn't what opened my eyes, because I had seen intensity before. Like, I'd never lived with athletes and seen that ongoing, but what I had never seen was their commitment to recovery. So for every hour they're on the track, on the bike, in the pool, whatever it is, they would have an hour of intentional active recovery. So and it would be scheduled. So it wasn't like, go hard. Oh, I'm tired. It was, okay, I just trained on the track for 3 hours. Now I'm going to go get with the trainer, the dietitian, and it was scheduled. So they learned at that level, in order to compete at that level and sustain it, they had to not just recover because they deserved it.
Which means lying down and eating Cheetos.
Yeah. They needed to recover because that's a mandatory part of sustainable high performance. And again, in America, we just like, go.
Yeah.
That is not, it's just not sustainable. Now, recovery doesn't have to be a week. It can be, but it doesn't have to be a week. Recovery can be that breathing exercise. Yeah. It's just valuing the fact that, like, I need to stand up and walk away, and valuing that.
Yeah.
And like, I'm going to do this not as part of like me relaxing or spa day. This is part of my performance.
Yeah.
Because the best performers in the world, their commitment to recovery. And I'm not talking about, talking about like, I'm done working out, so I'm going to go take a nap. That's part of their obligation. Like, I have to do these things so I can continue. I was roommates with one of the junior track coaches, and he said the difference between good athletes and elite athletes was in managing that work to recovery ratio. And he said that the athletes, world-class athletes, recovered hard so that they could train and compete at the harder levels. Yeah. He said when guys first come, like they're first coming into the Olympic cycle or something, they'd come in, I'm going to train every day. And they would have this little flash in the pan, but then all of a sudden their performance would start to go down. They couldn't train hard enough when it was time to train hard because they hadn't recovered hard enough when it was time to recover.
I love that.
So that was an eye-opener.
So I know Brett has a surprise.
Honestly, I appreciate you bringing that up. That's really important, because when you're driven like A-Type, I don't want to make you lose what your thought is. I'll be real quick. You're so hungry. You're so driven to just drive. You know, I'm a big, huge movie buff, so I'm thinking of like, what was it? That NASCAR movie with Tom Cruise. I can see it. Days of Thunder.
Yeah, Days of Thunder. Yep.
And he's driving, and when he's talking with his pit boss, right? And they said, like, is he a good driver? He says, I swear to God, if he would just manage with me the tires and the pitting, we'd never lose a race. He literally burns the tires right off the car. Yeah. You know?
That's exactly what
he said, and then when he finally realized that he has to pit, that he has to recoup the car, his times dropped off the charts. And he started, and he went into Indy 500.
That's powerful.
Well, I mean, it's like Ford versus Ferrari with Miles, too.
Exactly.
It was the same thing. He would drive that car till it fell apart.
He's trying to break it.
Yeah.
He didn't think he was, but he was.
And then Carroll Shelby's like, we have to figure out a way to do this. You have to take that break. You have to relax.
Yes.
You have to recalibrate, because if you don't realign, at some point you're going to fall off that edge.
It's a great metaphor, but it's, I mean, it's a physiological truth that our psychology gets fucked up.
Yeah.
And so it's because the adrenaline and everything, our brain just thinks, no, I can fight this lion indefinitely.
Well, because it becomes a drug.
It's a drug. And so I can show you in a lab that after an hour and a half, there's things called ultradian rhythms that are about, humans are built in these 90 to 120 minute rhythms.
Yes.
So we can kick ass.
I didn't know about
just about anything for about 90 to 120 minutes. After 90 to 120 minutes, without an interruption, without an intentional break, your performance will decline cognitively, physically, emotionally, and we can show that in
that's physiological.
Physiological, cognitive.
It's cognitive,
everything.
Yeah.
So the point with that is, like, even if you're sitting at your desk trying to solve a problem, every 90 to 120 minutes, get up for 5 minutes. Get up for 2 minutes.
Because your performance drops off a cliff.
So if you just recover for a short period of time, go grab a glass of water, take a piss, take a 5-minute walk.
That's why Google has all those little sleep pods.
I did a thing with Virgin Active in the mid 2000s for the London Olympics, and they were experimenting with sleep pods, and this was in London.
Yeah.
And they had the sleep pods, and they were sold out. Like they couldn't.
I heard about
get
that.
in.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Well, the Puma Fast class was me.
Sure.
Yeah, I went over to London to write.
You did share with that. Did you went over? Yeah.
Yeah,
He's so excited that your
created it,
passport
went
means
over there.
something right now. So excited.
You're a racist. I love how all of this has tied together. Brett has a surprise for us that we're going to walk out to in a few moments, and I'm really excited about this surprise. But you guys have touched on the recovery and kind of the healing process. And Brett, I want you to help us kind of close out this part as we go to the surprise for our audience. People, I believe some people don't know that they grieve careers. They grieve over relationships. They grieve health, so many things. And, you know, everyone in this room, I believe, has already grieved over a loved one. I have, it may not look like it or sound like it, but I've grieved over 2 churches. I know my mouth is not in drinking, but
that's true.
It's all good. However, I am taking this moment to grieve over my career in ministry. And it's kind of hard for people to understand that. And if you can just kind of help our audience, help us to share the importance of grieving over a career, over the loss of a spouse or loved one, relationship, and how you truly move on so that you can be effective in the next chapter. And let's go show the audience our surprise.
Well, I think it's such a powerful thing because the grieving is something that you have to, but the grieving is, it's a tool that essentially God's given to us, and we have to remember that. Grief is not the enemy.
Yeah, I like that.
It's not, and it's grief puts you in this place, but it's not the enemy. Grief is how we make sense of
It's
something.
a way to rationalize
It's a
it.
rational. It's a way. It's a human way we have to make sense. But I think the key thing as you go through it is you have to draw a distinction between your feelings and your beliefs. And I think it's important that you feel everything. You feel sad. You can even feel angry. You can feel. Let yourself feel.
Don't you think feelings fuck everything up?
Nope. I think feelings are there for a reason. And I think that you go in, however, acknowledging that they're feelings. But exactly. I got somebody for you to talk to.
Please, Jesus.
But
Please, Jesus.
but feelings are a tool.
Oh shit! You killed me. That was
Feelings are a
good.
tool, and so they're there.
But they
It's
have a
like
tendency to wreak havoc over logical, empirical decisions.
however, if you acknowledge the
Stop shaking your
fact,
head, damn it.
you acknowledge the fact that like, oh, I'm having a feeling.
Yep.
Feelings are there for a reason.
Sure.
But also acknowledging, but I have beliefs.
Right.
And so when I
They have to align.
No, they don't. So when you go through grief, when I was going through my process of grief, which I still am, I felt completely hopeless. I felt like I had no future. I felt like my life as I knew it was over. I felt that me as a father couldn't do it. I felt all those things. But because of who I was and my values, I felt them with incredible intensity, but I didn't believe them. If I started to believe those feelings, if I didn't acknowledge, if I didn't have the ability to zoom out and see those, which was what therapy helped me do, see those as just feelings that are there, and there's no bad feelings. They're there. You say, oh, these are feelings. These feelings are chemicals in my mind, and I need these. I need
It's
these.
like
I need to be
noise.
sad. I need to be angry. I need these things. But that's not what I believe. So I'm going to let myself feel this, but I know what I believe. And so that is whether you're grieving a career, whether you're grieving a lost relationship, whatever you're grieving, understanding that grieving is a very natural process, and to lean into it and to be sad and let those feelings happen, but to let your beliefs stay, like, I'm going to let myself play. I'm going to let myself cry, but I know I'm not a sad person.
Right.
I'm going to let myself be angry, but I'm not an angry
So
person.
I think in an eloquent, much more eloquent way than I said it, I feel like we're saying the same thing, is that I don't see feelings as something that you completely ignore. I mean, I've been pretty adamant with my daughters. If you feel like crying, if you feel like, you need to give that moment for those feelings, because if you don't, I guarantee you, they will not go away. No. They will be there, and they will rear their
impact your beliefs, because they sit there deep, and all of a sudden you like, maybe I'm an angry person.
So here's the thing. So sometimes I do think that feelings can have merit to impact your beliefs through consideration, but for the most part, I think we're reactionary animals, and when circumstances hit us, our cognition has a reaction, and that reaction is feelings, and those feelings are for us to behave in a particular way. Fear is maybe run away, because that, innately in our DNA, that was what kept us alive.
It's the fight or flight.
Right?
It makes sense.
So, or we had to fight because there was nowhere to run, and this was the only way we were going to survive, right? Yeah. So I think they have merit because they're barometers of our circumstances. Yep. But we've had time with our beliefs on what makes sense for where we're headed. Mm-hmm. And I think too often, and maybe I'm overdoing it, too often we entertain our feelings more than we entertain our beliefs. Yeah. And we get caught up in our feelings so much that we forget everything that we believed before that.
Feelings are expedient. Feelings are a drug, and so we can get addicted. We can buy it because feelings are kicking out drugs. So, but it's that process of, and the more tools you have, like that, for me, that's what meditation did. It allowed me to have that time as to where I felt like I was more aware of what were feelings.
Right.
And I'd be like, oh, yeah, this is fine. I'm supposed to be sad. I'm going to go ahead and cry. And today was a shitty day. I felt helpless.
Right, did you want a little bit more?
I'm good. Yeah. I felt helpless today, but I'm not a helpless person. Mm-hmm. So it's the more mental space you can create. Those don't become convoluted. They don't. And so you can, and feelings don't always feel good, but that doesn't mean they're bad. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they're to help us make sense of it. So that's a main thing I learned was just like, hey, I'm going to cry because this is sad and this is terrible, but I'm not a sad person.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be angry at God for letting this happen, but I'm not an angry person. Mm-hmm. It's just, it's very natural. I'm going to go through this natural process, but where people make a mistake is they think that either those feelings are bad. It's all beliefs. No, I believe that I shouldn't have these feelings, or they just succumb to their feelings and you're just living on drugs then, because you're just going to chase the highs and then do whatever it takes to avoid the lows. Right. And that's why I didn't drink or do anything through my
that was wise.
Piece of my,
And I think it's important for our audience to know.
Do we have an audience?
Yeah, we have an audience, man.
Always.
You know,
okay.
If you need a mentor, if you need a coach, if you need a therapist, fuck the stigma of shame. Go get help.
Yes.
Yeah.
Help is there.
Yep.
Don't let religious freaks tell you that, just go to church, everything will be all right. Because there are some fucked up people in church. Trust me, I know. I pastored a few of them. So get help.
Yep.
Get a coach. Get a mentor.
It's strength, not weakness.
Get with Brett. I'm telling you, your life will change for the good. Salute.
Yeah, salute.
Yeah,
salute.
That's good. That's good.
All right.
So what's this?
The surprise?
What's the surprise?
Man, Brett is going to lead us to the surprise.
All right.
He's
so
lead us to the surprise?
There's this person, one of my mentors, that I want you to meet.
What?
All right.
Chicken tenders?
And do you get the ice cream too?
Oh, the ice cream, of course.
What flavor?
Well, okay. Did you put the cookie aside for me like I told you? My girl.
You're ordering cookies for
You
Lynn?
darn right I told you. I put it on Daddy's bill.
All right.
I think my microphone. Little thing.
Did you lose it?
No.
Did
Here,
you
what
just
I'll
lose
do?
good content because you don't know what you're doing?
No, just right here.
I think I lost mine too, actually.
Microphone's falling apart.
Microphone check.
Are we good?
1, 2, 1, 2.
Microphone check. There we go. Yeah, I'll just hold it. Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, this is my mentor right here.
Who is this beautiful young lady?
Who are you?
My name's Madison.
Madison. How
Hi,
old
Madison.
10.
are you? All right.
Wow.
You got a job?
Yeah.
What's your job?
Being in charge of him.
Oh, I love this girl.
High five. High five. There we go.
Wait a minute.
There we go. There we go.
You write all the speeches for him, make sure he's online with that.
No wonder you
There
so
you go.
polished.
So your dad told us a story. He told us a story about a time he was at a speaking engagement, and he had to get up on stage, as I'm sure you've seen your dad do many times. And when they were going to do it, they started talking about maybe having, actually, I'm wrong. They were inviting you to speak. And then they started talking about the fact that it would be interesting to have him come and speak, but they wanted to have you there to speak.
Yeah.
And he said you did. And he said you did really well. You did really well.
What did you talk about?
What did you talk about?
I forgot what it was.
Did you like it?
In LA?
Yeah.
Why?
No, I forgot what we were talking
It
about.
was like kids and being
Yeah.
healthy and
Why did you like it?
I just like being in front of crowds.
But what is that? Why do you like it?
I don't know.
Does it feel good?
Yeah.
It does?
Stop scaring the baby.
I know. Mike over there asking the hard questions.
I have 3 daughters that I raised. So trust me, I know how it feels good.
Yeah.
Do you want to help people?
Yeah.
Is that what you think your dad does?
Yeah.
That's cool. That's very cool.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
She helped that mean guy over there. He really did.
Who helped?
He did. He helped
You said she.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry.
That's not my pronoun.
It is 2024, mind you.
He said.
Do you see how I just walked you right into that?
No. I had too much of this. Don't ever drink this, baby. Don't ever drink.
Do you think you want to do what your dad does when you get older?
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Nice.
That is really cool.
You want to do it with animals though, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, really?
So you want animals? Yeah.
You
I
want?
want to be like a dog trainer and like animal trainer.
Nice. You want to give them a voice?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Nice.
Well, I'm very, very pleased to meet you.
We
Very
are
nice
pleased
to meet you.
Thank you so much. We're gonna get a
Yeah,
lot
thank
of
you for
views
coming on the
because you're
show.
on the show. We had 4 people listening and watching, and now we have about 44.
Are we 4? I thought we were 3.
Well, we lost the ones who were the personal development coaches, thanks to you.
Oh,
but
yeah.
that's beside the point.
Psychologist organization.
All of
is also
Brett's
what they
clients
call
have
it.
now canceled.
Yeah, they're like, wait a minute.
He's gonna have to work at the
They
youth
cancel
club.
those subscription services.
Maddie's got a YouTube channel too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you really?
do.
Oh,
What's
Maddie,
going on?
you need to plug
Come
that
on,
right
plug
now.
it. Plug
Let us
it.
know.
Plug it, please.
So it's called Madison Klika, and it's kind of just like stretches. For like one of my newest videos is for kids and adults.
Flexibility.
Yeah.
Oh,
Wow.
that's so
Very
great.
cool.
Yeah.
You think you could do one of the stretches?
No. Why you gotta bring that up? Makes
Do
it
you
awkward.
think he could stretch?
Even the camera crew's laughing at you. Meredith, thank you so much for taking some time and speaking to us. That's really cool. Because your dad,
He did all
Drop the
right.
ball.
he did all
Yeah.
right. He did all right. That's why he brought you in. He wanted to make sure we closed really strong.
That's it. We needed a cute face in here because you see what we're working with.
Yeah.
Brett, Madison, thank you so much.
Thanks
Thank you
for
so
having
much.
us.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. I
Thanks,
think that there's some really great things that people can pull from this episode.
Most
I know I
certainly.
am.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Absolutely.
Well, we've seen the transition. You made. Coming into this, like Mike was kind of apprehensive, and
Yeah.
No, I
mean,
wasn't
I think we've
apprehensive.
all-
I thought it was BS.
The baby.
Did you see
Hey,
me pull?
it was
She's heard that word? Did you see me pull?
Yeah.
I think we all
You know what he
gleaned
was
something
gonna
of
say.
value from this. So,
All right,
it's been
Ascot.
phenomenal, of course.
Close
Well,
this out, baby.
Oh my God!
As
I'm just gonna
always,
do it. Did
thank
you write
you
this
all.
down?
Of course,
he wrote
always.
it down.
You write it down in calligraphy, of course.
Shout out
Yes,
the
of
sponsor.
course.
Don't forget the
Yes.
sponsor.
Put your pinky up.
So, yes, thank you all for joining us for another episode of Ascot and Hats. Brett Klika here, just a phenomenal
Maddie, this is what he
gentleman.
does at the end.
He
Makes
brings
it
it
feel
all
good.
together, showing that symbiotic relationship of the mind and body and making it all work together, for the betterment of oneself and then for their society.
He got a haircut.
So, thank you all for joining us, and we hope to see you again.
Ascot and Hats, baby.
Salud.
Salud. That was good. All right, I'm ready.